The vast expanse of space shimmered with 1,000 stars, each one more distant than the last. The ship Ether's Lance hummed quietly as it soared through the unknown. Captain Lira Andrin had seen many alien worlds in her travels, but none as peculiar as Datharan, a planet that had mysteriously appeared on galactic charts only a few months ago. There were no records of it, no history, no prior mentions in any database. "Captain, we're entering Datharan's atmosphere," came the voice of her navigator, a bright-eyed human named Eric Tove. Lira stood up, her heart pounding with excitement. Datharan was rumored to be home to an advanced, long-forgotten alien race, one that had vanished eons ago, leaving only traces of their technology behind. Her mission was simple: discover the secrets hidden on this enigmatic planet. Yet, as Ether's Lance descended, Lira couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. "Steady," she whispered as the ship trembled under the thick cloud layers. Below, the landscape slowly came into view. A sprawling jungle, teeming with bioluminescent flora and ancient, crumbling ruins. But there was something else, something more, a faint pulse, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. After landing on the planet's surface, Lira's team set out to explore. They had barely made it past the edge of the jungle when they came across the first signs of alien architecture. Towering obelisks covered in strange runes that seemed to glow faintly in the twilight. "This place is incredible," Eric muttered, running his hand across one of the stones. "It's like it's alive." Lira nodded, her gaze focused on the structures ahead. "It's as if they were waiting for us." Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the ground. The team stopped in their tracks, weapons at the ready. From the shadows of the ruins emerged a figure, tall, graceful, and unmistakably alien. Its skin shimmered in shades of blue and violet, and its eyes glowed with an ethereal light. "I am Kaelen," the alien spoke in a voice that resonated within their minds rather than their ears. "You seek knowledge, but you may find something far more dangerous." Lira stepped forward, unafraid. "We're here to uncover the truth. What happened to your people?" Kaelen hesitated for a moment, his gaze locking onto Lira's. "My people, they ascended, but the cost was too great." As the days passed, Lira and Kaelen grew closer. The alien, though mysterious and distant, slowly began to reveal the story of his civilization. The Datharans, a once thriving species that had unlocked the secrets of the universe but had paid the ultimate price. They had attempted to merge their consciousness with the very fabric of reality, hoping to transcend physical existence, but something had gone wrong. Lira found herself drawn to Kaelen in ways she hadn't anticipated. There was something about him, something both familiar and alien that tugged at her emotions. She had seen many worlds, met countless species, but none like him. And yet, there was a danger looming. Lira could feel it in the air, in the very ground beneath their feet. The deeper they ventured into Datharan's ruins, the more she realized that this planet held secrets that were better left undisturbed. As Lira and her team uncovered more of the Datharan technology, they stumbled upon an ancient machine buried deep within the heart of the ruins. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, vast and complex, humming with energy that seemed to bend space and time itself. "This is what they used," Kaelen said, his voice tinged with regret. "This is what destroyed them." Despite his warnings, Lira couldn't resist the pull of the machine. She activated it, and in an instant the world around them shifted. The ground trembled, and a wave of energy surged through the ruins, knocking everyone off their feet. When Lira opened her eyes, she realized with horror that they were no longer alone. The Datharans had returned, but not as they once were. They were now beings of pure energy, existing beyond the physical realm, their minds twisted and broken by the failed ascension. And they were angry. Lira and her team fought desperately to survive as the energy beings swarmed around them. Kaelen did everything he could to protect them, but even his power was no match for the fury of his people. As the ruins crumbled around them, Lira realized that there was only one way to stop the madness. "We have to destroy the machine," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the chaos. Kaelen nodded, his eyes filled with sadness. "It's the only way, but you must leave now." Lira hesitated, her heart torn between her duty and the bond she had formed with Kaelen. But there was no time. With a heavy heart, she ordered her team to retreat to the ship while she and Kaelen stayed behind to destroy the machine. As they worked together to overload the machine, Lira couldn't help but feel a deep sense of loss. She had come to care for Kaelen, but she knew that this was the only way to save them all. The explosion reverberated through the ruins, shaking the foundations of the ancient structures that had stood undisturbed for millennia. Dust filled the air, and for a moment, everything was silent. Lira blinked, her ears ringing from the force of the blast. She looked around, searching for any sign of Kaelen. "Kaelen!" she called out, her voice breaking in the stillness. The air was thick with the lingering energy of the machine's destruction. Wisps of ethereal light danced across the ruins, like ghosts of the Datharan past. Lira felt a deep, gnawing emptiness in her chest, the kind that came from loss. Kaelen's form was nowhere to be seen, only faint traces of his presence flickering in the air. She dropped to her knees, her hands trembling as she touched the ground where Kaelen had last stood. The sacrifice had been made. He had given his life to save not just her, but the entire galaxy from the remnants of the Datharan ascension. But the weight of his loss pressed down on her heart. Her communicator crackled to life. "Captain," Eric's voice was urgent. "We're picking up massive energy fluctuations from the planet's core. We need to leave now." Lira swallowed the lump in her throat, forcing herself to stand. She had a mission to complete, and the safety of her crew depended on her. But she couldn't shake the lingering presence of Kaelen, the connection they had formed, and the strange feeling that this wasn't truly the end. Back aboard the Aether's Lance, Lira sat in the ship's command center, staring out at the void of space as the planet Dathra shrank into the distance. Felt surreal, like a dream she couldn't wake from. Her heart was heavy with grief, but there was something else too, a strange sense of incompleteness. The mission had ended in both victory and loss, but something about it felt unresolved. Eric approached, hesitating for a moment before speaking. "Captain, I've been going through the data we collected from the ruins before the explosion. There's something odd." Lira turned her gaze from the stars. "What do you mean?" He handed her a tablet, displaying a complex sequence of energy readings. "These fluctuations, they match the ones we detected during the Datharan machine's activation. But there's more. There's something else embedded in the data. It's almost like a signal." Lira frowned, taking the tablet. "A signal? It's faint, but it's definitely there. And it's directed at us." Her pulse quickened. Could it be Kaelen? Could he have survived, somehow? Or was it something else? Something darker? "Track it," she ordered, her voice steady. "I want to know where it's coming from." Eric nodded, already typing commands into the ship systems. "It's coming from deep space, further than anything we've explored before. I'm running a course now." Lira's mind raced. If there was a signal, it meant there was more to the Datharan mystery than they had uncovered. And if Kaelen had somehow survived, she couldn't just leave him behind. But she knew better than to trust hope too easily. The Datharan technology had nearly destroyed them once. There was no telling what other dangers lay ahead. Days passed as the Aether's Lance sped through the void, following the enigmatic signal. The crew remained tense, unsure of what they were heading toward. The deeper into space they traveled, the stranger the readings became. "It's like the signal is alive," Eric said one evening as they gathered in the command center. "Keeps changing, adapting to our movements, almost as if it's aware of us." Lira stared at the hollow display, her mind working through the possibilities. Could it be another Datharan system? Something left behind by their civilization? Eric shook his head. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's pulling us in." As they neared the source of the signal, the ship's sensors picked up an object in the distance, massive, drifting through the empty expanse of space. It was like nothing they had ever seen before, an enormous structure covered in intricate patterns that glowed with the same strange energy they had encountered on Dathra. "It's some kind of station," Lira muttered, her heart pounding. "But it's ancient, far older than anything we've ever encountered." The station was surrounded by a field of energy, pulsing faintly as they approached. Lyra's instincts screamed danger, but she couldn't turn back now. There were too many unanswered questions, too many mysteries that still needed unraveling. "Prepare to dock," she ordered, her voice firm despite the unease gnawing at her. The ether's lance maneuvered closer to the station, its hull creaking as it passed through the energy field. As they docked, Lyra couldn't help but feel that they were being watched. The air inside the station was thick with the weight of centuries, and the halls were eerily silent, save for the faint hum of the ancient systems still running. "This place feels wrong," Eric whispered, his hand resting on his weapon. Lyra nodded, her grip tightening around her own. "Stay alert. We don't know what we're dealing with yet." As they moved deeper into the station, the walls seemed to shift and shimmer, as if they were alive. The deeper they went, the more the atmosphere changed, becoming almost oppressive. Lyra could feel something pressing down on her, something watching them from the shadows. And then, in the heart of the station, they found it. A massive chamber, its walls lined with the same glowing runes they had seen on Datharan. At the center of the room, a large, spherical device pulsed with a steady rhythm. It was ancient but still functional. Lyra approached it cautiously, her eyes scanning the strange symbols carved into its surface. It looked like a control system of some kind, connected to the station's core. "This is it," she murmured, reaching out to touch the device. "This is what's been calling us." But the moment her hand made contact, the room shifted. The walls rippled, and the energy field around them pulsed violently. Lyra stumbled back as a figure began to materialize before her. Tall, ethereal, and unmistakably Datharan. "Kaelen?" she gasped, her heart leaping into her throat. The figure looked like Kaelen, but something was different. His form flickered, and his eyes glowed with an intensity she had never seen before. He stepped toward her, his voice echoing in her mind. "You shouldn't have come here, Lira," he said, his tone filled with both sorrow and warning. "This place, it's not what you think." "What happened to you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We thought you were gone." "I am not the same as I once was," he replied, his form shimmering as if struggling to stay intact. "The station, it changed me. It's alive, Lira. It's been waiting for someone to activate it, to complete the ascension." Lyra's blood ran cold. "Ascension? You mean the same process that destroyed your people?" Kaelen nodded. "This station is the heart of the Datharan experiment. It holds the power to ascend beyond the physical realm, but the cost is too great. You must leave before it's too late." "But we can't just leave you here," Lyra protested, her heart aching at the sight of him. Kaelen reached out, his hand hovering just inches from hers. "You must. If you stay, you'll be consumed by the station's power, just as I was." Tears filled Lyra's eyes as she realized what he was asking of her. She wanted to stay, to help him, but deep down, she knew that there was nothing she could do. The station's power was too great, and Kaelen was already lost to it. "Goodbye, Lira," he whispered, his form flickering one last time before vanishing completely. Lira stood in the chamber, her heart heavy with grief. She had lost Kaelen again, and this time, she knew there was no bringing him back. But she couldn't dwell on her sorrow. She had to get her crew out of the station before it was too late. "Eric, we're leaving," she said, her voice firm. The crew hurried back to the ship, the station rumbling ominously as they moved. The energy field surrounding it had begun to destabilize, and Lira could feel the station's power trying to pull them back. As they launched from the docking bay, the station erupted in a blinding flash of light. Lira watched as the ancient structure collapsed in on itself, disappearing into the void. It was over. Lira sank into her chair, exhaustion washing over her. They had survived, but at a great cost. The Datharan mystery had been solved, but the price had been too high. As the stars stretched out before them, Lira closed her eyes, her thoughts drifting to Kaelen. He was gone, but his memory would live on in her heart. And though the mission had ended in tragedy, she knew that she had done everything she could. The galaxy was safe, for now.